Alright boys, the new season is coming out soon, and the Siege Cup tournaments are coming up. In this video, I'm going to give you the different roles that make up a team so you guys can play like a comp team and win those tournaments. First thing we're going to talk about is the entry fragger. You are the gun skill guy. You are going to be droned in, and you're going to take gunfights to win map control. One of the biggest things about the entry fragger with taking gunfights is they're mostly going to be fair gunfights. The same way that you are pushing site, the roamers are going to be pushing you at the same time. You're going to lead the way for the rest of your team to follow up. This means you get early picks to turn the numbers in your favor. You are the first in the building. One of the things most people don't talk about when talking about the entry frag is that you have to know when to slow down. It's easy to get locked in that tunnel vision and keep pushing. Maybe you outrun that drone, or you see a big number advantage and you just go for it. You have to know when to slow down that push to allow the rest of your team to come up and get set up to take the site. Usually your entry fraggers are going to be your Ashes, your Bucks, your Sledges, your Zophias. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the support role. You are going to be droning in the entry fragger. For the most part in ranked, you don't have to be on your drone the entire round, but you should prioritize staying alive and getting that breach to eventually get a plant going. Wait for a few picks from your entry and the other roles, then when it's comfortable, usually later in the round, then you will go in for the plant. This means stop getting spawn peeked, spawn in the right locations. Too many times I've been playing with friends who are the support role, and they will spawn on the other side of the map, and I will say, hey, you need to get over here. They try getting over to site and they die from somewhere outside, or they try to go inside and then go all the way across the map and they just get picked off by a roamer. Spawn the right spots, usually it's going to be closest to the site, and try to stay alive. The main push ends when you can't get a breach on site. Then your teammates kind of have to scramble, say, hey, we need to move, we can't get breach, we got to do this now. We have to try to push the doors, and usually what ends up happening is there's not enough angles to really be effective at getting rid of the anchors on site, or there's just too many people on site and not enough entry points. You're going to try to save your drones, either learn good spots to leave them, or just bring it back to spawn so that way you have both of your drones when you spawn in. These are going to be your Thermites, your Ace, your Thatcher, Hibana, Montaigne. Anybody with a hard breach can be a support, but there are those that are designated for it. Now we're going to get into the flex operators. Now with flex operators, you have what's called your secondary supports and your secondary frags. For secondary supports, you're going to hold passive angles. You can be a little bit more aggressive than support players. Basically, you're going to play a little bit behind your entry to kind of cover for them, or refrag if possible. You should obviously try not to die, but if the support player dies, now you are the main support player. All of their roles fall onto you. Anyone with hard breaching charges can also be the secondary support. For the most part, it's going to be the Striker, Buck, Capital, and Monty. Now you could be saying, wait, you just said Buck was an entry fragger. Now you're saying he's also a secondary support? Yes, let me explain. If your team already has that fragging operator and it's like Ash or somebody who's not Buck, you can still take Buck and just not be an entry fragger. He's got his different utilities that makes him a good flex operator. He's got his hard breach charges, and his shotgun can open up a lot of the map. He's got one of the best guns in the game that's going to help you when you do eventually take those gunfights. Or if your frag dies, you can then move up and be the new fragger. That's where the whole secondary frag or secondary support comes in. You are filling what happens in the situation that you're in. As the flex, you are just going to be filling in whatever your team needs. Next is going to be your flank watchers. Now you could argue that the flank watch is not its own role and that it's just another flex operator. I'm just going to put it as its own role. You're going to set up flank drones and watch them. You're just going to be cutting off possible flank options for the defenders and ensure a safe take for the support roles. You're going to be pushing in after your entries, but before your supports. If anyone wants to flank and take back map control, they have to make noise or alert the attacking team before they do that. One of the biggest things for being a flank watch is you have to be patient. Too many times I've died from holding an angle for a long time, and then as soon as I look away, I die from where I was just looking. Start holding that angle or getting on that camera and just waiting. Obviously, if you're in a 3v5 situation, have your dead teammates get on the cams and give you guys comms. But if everybody's still alive, you should be on your cams on those flank watches and calling out to your team. Your flank watchers are going to be your Nomad, your Gridlock, Zero, or anyone with Claymores. The last role for attack is going to be your IGL. Now, this is not going to be any set operators that are specifically for the IGL. This is more of like a personal thing that you do as your team leader. You are going to be making the calls for your team. Give them objectives. Don't just boss them around. It doesn't need to be too specific. Say something like, let's go for a back push. I need you to take first floor while he drones you out. Or this guy's going to take vert control third floor. We need to get rid of this utility. You're going to be leading the comms. You're going to decide what push to take and if and when to back off and change the push. Now, don't jam comms. You should not be saying everything you do like, I'm going to vault this window or I'm moving down this hallway. Don't be afraid to tell your team what they did wrong, but don't just sit there and yell at them. If you're constantly on your team about dying as soon as they die, you're just going to get muted. No one's going to listen to you. You need to figure out how to get the message out without sounding mean, if that makes sense. Don't just blame them for things that you tell them to do. You are going to have to take some of the responsibility. If a push that you said to take doesn't work, most of that blame might be on you. The IGL is going to be a very important role, but it is also a very stressful role. Now we're going to talk about the defenders. First is the anchors. You're going to be holding angles in sight towards common push areas. You're going to move between both sites to deny the plant. Hold crosses with the other anchors. You're just going to be getting on objective kills usually later in the round. It's going to be the same idea as the support on attack. You don't die early. If the attackers take out an anchor, when they see that 2 or 3 people are roaming, they can just flood sight, and it's going to be very hard for the roamer to then retake it. Usually the anchors are going to get on cams early in the round, as you are going to be seeing the least amount of action unless the attackers are rushing. Some of the anchors are going to be Doc, Capcan, Smoke, Mute, Valk. Now the most important role on defense is going to be the roamers. I have an entire video just on the roamers, so I'm not going to get too much into it. Your job is to hold off-site parts of the map, waste time, flank, and use phantom aggression. Now what this means is that there doesn't have to be an enemy in your sight for you to shoot. Just the enemy hearing your gun going off in a random direction is going to be enough for them to say, hey, there's a guy that's off site. And in their brain, they're going to always remember that there is a dude that could be behind them that they're going to have to worry about at some point. You should have at least 2 to 3 roamers on a single defensive round. You can be a flex roamer. Same as flex on attack, just fill in whatever your team needs. A good example of a flex roamer is Smoke. He's got the ability to get aggressive, roam, and take gunfights with his SMG or hold with his shotgun. However, the more he stays alive, the more useful his gas grenades get, and the shotgun becomes a beast when attackers are low on time and have to flood sight. For this reason, you could also anchor with him. Try to stay alive, and when time gets low, use your utility to lock them out or make them take damage while getting into sight. Maybe your team needs a shield or different utilities, maybe you need traps or a hard breach denial. IGL on defense. This is going to be a lot easier than the IGL on attack, as your goal for defense is mainly just to stay alive. The attackers have to push you. Tell your roamers when it's time to come back to site, or if they're rushing and you need to focus on a specific spot. Maybe it's telling your team that there's only 45 seconds left, let's stop being aggressive and hold angles. If a roamer gets a kill and the diffuser is dropped, you should instruct your team to safely, or if possible, switch over and hold the room with the diffuser. Basically, you're going to give up sight, as it won't matter as long as they cannot plant the diffuser. Maybe tell one person to stay in sight to delay and waste as much time as they can. Then once the attackers get rid of that guy, they realize they cannot do anything on site without the diffuser. Now they will need to push the rest of your team who is already holding crosses on the diffuser. If there's no time left and the diffuser is still in that room, you can have one person watch it while the others try to get back to site, as the attackers will not have enough time to go to the room with a diffuser, then go all the way back to site and plant. You just need to stay alive. Now that you know the different roles, you can find which one you are and how to play it properly. Let me know in the comments below if this helps you and what I should do next. Good luck with the tournaments, and I'll see you in the next video.